what's up, boxing fans, and welcome back to the Saved by the Bell podcast with my co-host H and myself, Dark Side of the Moon. In today's episode, we're going to be covering what's happened in the weekend event with the ladies and what's coming up this week for the action for the boxing this week. So before we get into all of that, let me ask you, H, how you doing? And did you enjoy the card this weekend?
Listen, I'm doing good. We had some nice weather this weekend. Not this weekend, I'm talking about the past couple of days. We had some nice weather. I enjoyed myself. You know what they say, sun's out, guns out. Yeah, I mean. Anyways, enough of me waffling. Onto the card is at Royal Albert Hall, all women's card. I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed watching all the ladies. You know, some great talent there, some up and coming superstars. And just big up to the ladies because boxing has come so far, especially for the women's boxing side. It's come so far. Right now, it's at the peak of the mountain. Mount Everest is at the highest point right now. And it's only growing. It's only growing. But yeah, man, I enjoyed myself. How about yourself?
Yeah, man, I've been doing good. And I've been enjoying all these events, man. We have to remember, like, it's only the start of the year. We're like 3 months into the year, and look at how many amazing events we've had so far. But just specifically on this event, again, it was a special moment for women's boxing. You know, it goes down in history as, I think, the second only ever event that is an all women's card. We had one before, but this was specifically the first one at Royal Albert Hall. So it's a special historical moment for the ladies. And boy, it was a great night of action, man. We had a lot of drama in there. We had a lot of good technical boxing in there as well. We had some upsets, what some people would have considered some upsets in there as well. So it was a great night of boxing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to breaking it all down with you today, my bro.
That's what I'm saying, man. We're not going to get into each fight. We're going to give each fighter the props. We're going to give them a big shout out. You know, big up to every single lady that came and participated. Shout out to Cindy Nagamba. She didn't make it because she... Why did she not make it again? I forgot why she didn't make it. I think it was due to some sort of illness or something. But anyway, she never made it. Anyways, long story short, shout out to every single female that was on this card, and we're only going to go into details on the co-main event and the main event card. Co-main event was Caroline Dubois versus Bu Mi Rishin, and main event was obviously Natasha Jonas versus Lauren Price for the unification welterweight championships, welterweight title, shall I say. Anyways, let's kickstart things off with Caroline Dubois. I'm going to say this. I was impressed with Caroline Dubois' performance on the night. She kept her composure. She kept it classy. She dictated the pace of this fight for the most of the early rounds. And then come towards after round 6, 7-ish, she started to slow down. You know what I mean? And that's when I started to see Shin up her pace. That's when I started to see Shin. She started to get her confidence, started to let her hands fly. But it was almost a case of it's too far too late. We should have saw that energy kept in the early 6 rounds, the early 3 rounds. You know what I mean? But where the gap was so far in the first 6, it was hard for Shin to close the gap in the last 6. That makes sense. Caroline Dubois was always one step ahead. Better punches, better boxing, crisp shots, better combinations. You know, she was just a better package on the night. Come round 9, 10, you saw Shin. She upped her pace. She literally threw everything out of her toolbox because she knew she was down on the scorecards and she had to basically knock out Dubois to win this fight, or knock her down at least, you know what I mean, to make it even. And she went absolutely crazy, threw everything. There's a few pros and cons that I want to speak about with Dubois. All right, cool. We know in round 10, round 9, round 10, she slowed down significantly, almost gassed herself out. So if you're at that stage and you're already ahead of the scorecards, why are you swinging back? Why are you throwing punches back when Shin is throwing punches at you? Just keep the pace, jabber, move around, jabber, move around. You're already winning the fight. Do you know what I mean? This is boxing. This is not brawling. So that didn't make no sense to me why she was entertaining the exchanges between her and Shin, because you're gassed out and she is she's you know what, you've got to give it to her. Her conditioning, Shin's conditioning was very good, because even in round 10 she was throwing bombs. I was thinking, you know what, big up to yourself, you know what I mean? So that's one thing that's one con about Dubois. She needs to understand boxing, understand that it's not always about throwing these bombs. Do you know what I mean? If you're tired, if you're almost gassed out, why are you getting into exchanges, especially when you're ahead in the scorecards? It don't make any sense. So that's one thing. Another thing is she gets hit too easily. You know, yeah. Caroline Dubois, she gets hit way too easily. I don't know if it's a lack of discipline, or it's a lack of not respecting your opponent's power or speed, because we know once you don't respect your opponent's power or speed, you don't mind getting hit. It's like whatever. But is that the case, or is it just a case of she's shit at defense and she's just an offensive fighter? Is that the case? But anyways, enough of me waffling. Big up to both ladies. Big up to Shin for coming over and performing and putting up a performance like she did. And big up to Dubois for obviously the victory, well deserved. She put in the work, and we saw it on the night. But she can take away a few things from this fight and go back to the drawing board and improve and come back. But I want to know your thoughts on this fight as well.
Well, my thoughts were as normal. It was a great fight. Caroline Dubois did impress me for, I'd say, 80% of that fight. She was boxing exactly how I would expect her to box, because Caroline Dubois, she is a little bit stiff, like you said in the previous podcast, but she is fairly technically quite good going forward. I did notice she did a lot of really good body work in that fight. Like, she was really digging Shin to the body and trying to get her maybe to go down from some solid body shots, but Shin was just too tough. I have to say, when it got to the final 2 rounds, like you said, Caroline Dubois, I felt she lost all her discipline. She's like gotten to the point where it's like, okay, it's the end of the fight now. Like, she's just throwing loads of shots at me. Let me just throw loads of shots back. And that is a prime example of how someone would get knocked out. Like, you see it with fighters in the really early stages, fighters who are never that good. That's what they would normally do. And I don't expect to see that from someone of Caroline Dubois' ability level. So if I'm her coach, I'll be going to her and saying, hey, look at this part of the fight. These 2 rounds here, you can't do that. You got to box on the back foot. Just keep the pace exactly as you were. You know you're up on the scorecards, like, let's say, by at least 3 to 4 rounds, then you can just box casual. You don't even need to box how you've been through the rest of the fight. You could just box casual. But overall, good performance from Caroline Dubois. Of course, you got the victory, quite wide on some of the scorecards, which I didn't particularly agree with. But on Shin, I thought Shin, like you said, again, she started too late. Some fighters are just like that. Some fighters, they start early and they start fast, and then they get drained the more the fight goes on. And others start slow and they build their way into it. And then by the 6th round, they're starting to turn the screw a bit more. But I just felt Shin's problem was starting too late. If she was boxing the way she was in those last 2 rounds, or let's say 3, 8, 9, and 10, if she was boxing like that, I think she could have done a lot better and maybe even potentially nicked a victory against Caroline Dubois. But it wasn't to be for Shin. I guess she goes back to the drawing board and she'll come again. She seems like a good boxer, in my opinion. For Caroline Dubois, like, obviously she retains her title. We got to wait and see what's going to be next for her in the pipeline. So yeah, my thoughts were great fight and onwards and upwards for Caroline Dubois.
That's what I'm saying, man. And speaking of onwards and upwards, let's talk about the main event card. Natasha Jonas versus Lauren Price. The OG versus the young G. Listen. This was a big fight for British boxing. This was a big fight to shape the welterweight division, 147-pound women's division. This was a big fight because there's only one belt left, and that other belt is with Michaela Mayer. and she's going to have a fight on the 30th of March against Sandy Ryan. So there's only one belt left, and the rest of these belts were in England on the weekend. You know what I mean? And that was between not Sandy Ryan. That was between Natasha Jonas and Lauren Price. All right, cool. Let's get into it. Predictions for this fight. I said Natasha Jonas will beat Lauren Price based on her experience, based on her accuracy and timing. You know, majority of the time, accuracy and timing beats speed and power. Natasha Jonas had the experience, timing, speed, and just experience on her hand. Lauren Price, the up and coming, the hungry dog, young bull, she had speed, power, agility, hunger. And there's a 10-year age difference in this fight. I always go back to this. This is the sport of boxing. Age plays a big factor. You know, this is not table tennis. This is not golf. This is not flipping ping pong. This is boxing. You know what I mean? There's always an age limit on this sport. And in the lighter division that you are in, age plays a big factor. And these ladies are in the welterweight division. You need speed, you need agility, you need movement, you need to be agile. And on the night, we saw it. We saw it clear as day. I don't think I gave Natasha Jonas one round. She was completely dominated by Lauren Price. Outboxed, outpunched, outspeed, outpowered, out everything. And it was a bit sad to see because it was almost like beating an old person.
Yeah.
It was almost like, you know, when a young person beats up an old person, it's like, oh man, that's sad.
Yeah.
That's sad. Like, I wouldn't go and beat up an OAP, you know what I mean? If I was to get in an argument in the street with an OAP, I'd be like, later, mate. Imagine me starting to punch up the OAP. What does that make me? You know what I'm saying?
Not quite an OAP yet. An OAP.
Obviously,
she's an OAP.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm going a bit too far, but you get the drift. So it was one of those ones. It's Lauren Price's time. It's the passing of the torch. You know, Natasha Jonas passed the torch over to Lauren Price. There was no real bad blood. It was just to see who's the better fighter, who's the better boxer. And as far as anything else, we're going to get into that in a minute, but I want to know what your thoughts are on this fight.
Yeah, no, it was quite sad to see, I have to be honest. It was quite a domination. I think I did give Natasha Jonas a round. I think it was a round. I remember giving her a round. She did quite well, and some of the early rounds, I think she did okay in one of those rounds. But I think one of the commentators had that she had two rounds that they gave her, the commentary team. But you know, sometimes how the commentary team is quite biased. But yeah, anyway, my thoughts on the fight were it was an amazing fight to watch, even though it was very one-sided. I'll start with Lauren Price. Like you said, she was just too fast. She was too quick. Her footwork, she was in and out. One thing I noticed was her counter punches. She was getting Natasha Jonas so many times with counter punches. It was almost like I thought there was going to be a knockout coming at some point, because normally if you catch someone with enough counter punches, eventually they're going to go down. Do you know what I mean? But it wasn't to be. But she boxed herself to a unanimous points victory. I thought it was going to be a lot closer, actually, to be honest. I thought there would have been a couple of rounds in it, because if you go back and you look at Natasha Jonas's last couple of performances, she's been very accurate with her shots. She's a little on the slower side, yes, but she's very accurate, and she just wasn't that tonight, or the other night when she was fighting, should I say. But I think for Natasha Jonas, the main thing here is really the age factor. I think if Natasha Jonas had the same level of experience she does now, but was the same age as Lauren Price, I think the fight would have been really close, like really close. But unfortunately, that wasn't to be. Condolences to Natasha Jonas and congratulations to Lauren Price. Lauren Price goes on to fight the winner of, like you said, Michaela Mayer versus Sandy Ryan. And then we will have an undisputed women's champion at the 147 division.
That's what I'm talking about. Exciting times for the 147 division, man. Natasha Jonas, it's time to hang up her gloves, call it a day. You know what I mean? You don't have to retire from boxing, but you can retire from competition, active competition. Do you know what I mean? I am sure Natasha Jonas has got a seat waiting for her in the commentary channel. Do you know what I mean? With Johnny Nelson and all them boys there, I'm pretty sure she has got a place there. You know what I mean? Okay. But as far as competing blow to blow, yeah, call it a day. You know, you've had a great career. You've been a veteran, a British icon, and farewell, my friend. Farewell. All right, cool. So that's the weekend recap done. Royal Albert Hall, all women's event. History in the making, baby. Anyways, let's quickly and swiftly move on to the upcoming week fights, upcoming events. All right, cool. Let's kickstart things off with Keith Thurman versus Brock Jarvis in Australia. This will be taking place on the 12th of March, which is basically in 2 days' time, because today's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's literally in 2 days' time. I know it's a bit of a short notice, but damn, Daniel, it's never too late to give you guys information on this fight. This is this is another fight. The OG versus a young G. This is another fight. Keith Thurman being age 36, Brock Jarvis being age 27. 9-10 year difference between these guys as well. The only difference is these guys are both males, they're both men. So when they land, it's going to be different to the way the fight played out with Natasha Jonas and Lauren Price. But anyways, quickly and swiftly, I'm going to not get sidetracked. Keith Thurman, he's only had one fight in 5 years. That is inactive. In my eyes, you are an inactive fighter. He was supposed to have a fight against Tim Tszyu, had an injury, pulled out. Tim Tszyu got smashed up twice by Sebastian Fundora, and there was someone else, I forgot the guy's name. Anyways, so Tim Tszyu got mashed up. Keith Thurman had an injury, pulled out. Now Keith Thurman, obviously, he can't fight Tim Tszyu because he was injured. So in the meantime, they picked a warm-up fight for him. And they picked a warm-up fight against Brock Jarvis. Now, Brock Jarvis, this is a dangerous one because he's not just your rookie. He's not just the average Joe. Jarvis has got power. Yeah. Jarvis may not be the best technical boxer, may not even have as much experience as Keith Thurman, but his record speaks for itself. 22 wins, 20 of those wins coming via knockout, 1 loss on his resume, and that was against, who was it again? Liam Parrow. Yeah. That was against Liam Parrow. So, I mean, listen, 27, 22 knockouts. Do you know what I mean? You've got serious power, you know what I mean? But Keith Thurman, world champion, 2 times world champion. He's fought many elite level fighters. Yeah. The best of the best around the world. He's been there, he's done it. He's been on the biggest stages. But that was Keith Thurman back then. Yeah. That was Keith Thurman in his prime back then. This is 2025. Which Keith Thurman are we going to get on the night? That's the question that's bugging me. Which Keith Thurman are we going to get? He's just come off an injury. He's only had 1 fight in 5 years. 5 years. What Keith Thurman are we going to get? Whereas Brock Jarvis, young, upcomer, hungry, he's been active. Last fight he had was, I think, 3-4 months ago. The boy's active. So, I don't know, this is a techie one. Does experience beat euphemism? Does experience beat power? Before I get into any predictions, I want to hear your thoughts on this fight, and then we can get into the predictions after that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, you made some good points there about the inactivity, and I just look back to some of Keith Thurman's last couple of fights. Look how he performed in his last 2 fights. He doesn't look anything like the Keith Thurman of old, and that was like over 5 years or over 5 years ago in the last couple of fights that he's had. I think they picked a good opponent because it's going to make for a great fight because of the style that Brock Jarvis is. He really brings it. He comes forward. He's happy to sit on your chest and throw bombs away. Do you know what I mean? He has got power. I'd say his best asset is probably his left hook to the head and to the body. They're both very good assets of his. He's kind of a sharpshooter. The way he punches is kind of like he punches in a very tight motion. It's not very like loopy. It's more like very short and sharp with his hooks and stuff like that. So a good opponent for Keith Thurman. Is going to make for a great fight. I think Brock Jarvis is, like you said, he's definitely hungry. He's got one loss on his record. And normally you find when a fighter has a loss, they bounce back and they become better. So we've got to wait and see what happens in this fight. I won't give you my prediction just yet, but what I will say is that Keith Thurman is in for a tough night's work, in my opinion.
Most definitely, Keith Thurman is in for a tough night's work. I know this was supposed to be a warm-up fight before Keith Thurman goes and faced Tim Tszyu, but this warm-up fight could be career-ending.
Yeah,
that's how much there is on this line. That's how much there is on the line. All right, cool. I'm going to give you my prediction on this fight. Damn, homie, damn. This is a very hard one for me. Very techie. Because I don't know what Keith Thurman we're going to get. Because if it was prime Keith Thurman, I'd say he would swipe the floor with Brock Jarvis. You know what I mean? He would absolutely molest him in the ring. But this is not the same Keith Thurman. Haven't even seen him in action lately. He's come off an injury. He's 36. Brock Jarvis, 27. Damn. Someone's on his way out. Brock Jarvis is on his prime. Wow. Ooh. This is hard. This is a very hard one because you can't really make an accurate prediction when you have not seen a person active. Do you know what I mean? Because if I was to make a prediction of Keith Thurman back then, that's Keith Thurman back then. That's not Keith Thurman right now. So I don't know. I do believe Keith Thurman has the experience to beat a Brock Jarvis. He's got all the attributes. He's got speed. He's got power as well. But all right, cool. Keith Thurman is a better boxer. He's a better fighter than Brock Jarvis. Brock Jarvis has won. I only see Brock Jarvis in this fight have one attribute that goes against Keith, and that's power. That's all I see him. He's got power. He's not really that much of a technical boxer. He's not really technically great. You know what I mean? He's a bit stiff. So styles makes fights. Is this a comeback for Keith Thurman? Or is this a last paycheck for Keith Thurman? Damn, homie. My heart is saying pick Keith Thurman. My mind is saying pick Brock Jarvis.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not even going to make a prediction on this one. I'm just going to set this one back. I'm going to say this is a 50-50 fight. That is my answer. I'm saying it's a 50-50 fight. There we go. I'm sitting back on this one. I want to hear your prediction for this one. If you've got one. If you ain't got one, it's all good.
I got a prediction. My prediction is I think that Brock Jarvis is going to win. Okay. I think Jarvis is going to win in a close points victory. It might be like a split decision. I don't think it's going to be a unanimous decision because I think that there are openings. Like I see the way that Brock Jarvis boxes. He's good, but there are openings. And I think Keith Thurman, with his experience, will see some of those openings and make it a tough fight. But I just think that all the factors that you've mentioned, like the inactivity, the injuries had recently and stuff like that, and even the last fights he had all those years ago were not that great performances. Everything's just leaning towards Brock Jarvis. He's got everything in his favor. So he'll be the faster fighter. He'll be probably, I don't know if he's going to be the more powerful fighter. He'll be quicker. He'll be sharper. He'll be in and out. He'll be able to have more activity. I just think Brock Jarvis is going to get the victory. So that's my prediction. Brock Jarvis to get the victory in a close points decision.
Okay, say no more. Cool. We've got a prediction done for that one there. We've got another fight up and coming on the 15th of March, which is on a Saturday. We've got our own Nick Bull versus TJ Doheny for the WBA World Featherweight title. Let's fucking have it. Listen, me and you are both Nick Ball fans. We always root for him. He's an upcomer. But I've got one thing on my mind, yeah. That's a bit mind-boggling. It's a bit mind-boggling. Is how the fuck did TJ Doheny get another title shot after his loss against Naoya NOA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, how does he go and get another shot? Is it a case of Nick Ball didn't have any good, credible opponents to fight against? Was no one ready? Or was it just a case of TJ Doheny has actually got a serious name out there and he deserves another shot? I don't know, I don't know what kind of bribery is going on behind the scenes. Like, we don't know what's going on, bro. You get me? All right, cool. Let's get into the fight as well. Let's forget the conspiracy theories, yeah? Let's get into the fight itself. Who's got more experience? TJ Doheny has got more experience. He's got more knockouts than Nick Ball has fights. So we got to put some respect on TJ Doheny. He's got about 5 losses on his resume. I think about 1 draw. I'm going from the top of my head, so I can't really give you I think accurate numbers, but that's what I believe is his record. Anyways, experience versus youth. Damn, it's like this whole week's been experience versus youth.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean? If you think about it, anyways, but enough getting sidetracked. It's like experience versus youth. Does Nick Ball have what it takes to beat a TJ Doheny? And does TJ Doheny have anything left in him to become the WBA World Featherweight Champion? Or is this just a last paycheck? I believe Nick Ball has everything in his attributes to beat a TJ Doheny. Yeah. TJ Doheny has everything in his attribute to knock out Nick Ball. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's a boxer versus a banger. And we like it. We like to see these matchups. We like to see excitement, because there hasn't really been that much excitement in the featherweight division compared to back in the days. And you know where I'm going with this. I'm pretty sure you do. But you know who I'm going to mention? Prince Nassim Hamad, featherweight champion, Barrera, Kevin Kelly. Like that time, that era, the featherweight division was on absolute fire.
True.
Absolute fire. But you know what? Times have changed. Every division has their time. In the next 5 years, who knows? The flyweights might have their time.
Yeah, it's true.
In another 5 years, the middleweights might have their time. Every division has their time. Do you know what I mean? So, anyways, right now we're gonna talk about this fight here. I'm gonna give you my prediction, but I'm gonna give you my prediction after. I want to hear your thoughts on this fight quickly and swiftly. Just give us a little something, and you know what I mean. We can make our decision from there.
Yeah, man. So my little something on it. But
little sprinkle, you know what I mean?
Yeah, a little something. But my thoughts on this fight is like yours. Like, how did Doheny get this fight opportunity? But fair play to him. Like, he obviously gave it his best work he could against Inoue, but we all know he wasn't going to sustain the pressure. Eventually, he was going to collapse. But fair play to him. He's got another opportunity. I think the reason for it is you'll probably find that the boxers that are next in line are either already scheduled fights, they're injured or something like that, and the next best available opportunity for a fighter was Doheny. So that's probably why he's got the title shot. Thoughts on the fight? It's not the most exciting fight, if I'm being totally honest. I think most people would agree with that. However, I do think there's going to be a lot of action, because Nick Ball is an all-action fighter. He reminds me of a
bulldog.
It's like a little Rocky Marciano or something like that.
Yeah.
He loves throwing loads of shots. He's good at combinations. He's really great when it comes to inside fighting as well. It's like what you said. It's that youth versus experience thing. We go back to that again. I mean, I think Doheny's probably got enough experience to survive. Can he win against Nick Ball? I have to be honest. I'm not so sure he can. If he was going to win, then it would probably be by knockout, because I don't think he could win on a points decision. Unless he managed to get some knockdowns in and amongst that, then maybe he could. But just on a points-based thing, I don't think he could beat a Nick Ball, because Nick Ball is too much. He's a high-activity fighter. You know, he's not the biggest puncher, but he's also not a small puncher. So he's somewhere in between. And I just think when you got a youthful fighter that's high on activity versus a slightly older fighter that's lower on activity, normally that's going to go in the favor of the fighter with a higher activity. So, but finally, just capping my thoughts on the fight are, I think it's going to be an exciting fight to watch.
Most definitely, most definitely. All right, cool. Prediction time. Nick, I believe Nick Ball will win this fight on a points-based decision. He's the younger fighter, hungry fighter. He's got all the attributes to beat Doheny. Doheny has got one attribute that Nick Ball doesn't. That's his knockout power. But can he land that knockout power on someone who's fast, quick, moving?
Yeah,
that's the question. But I believe Nick Ball will beat TJ Doheny on a points-based decision. What about you?
Yeah, man, same. I agree with you. Totally the same. I think that factor of experience is the one thing that it's going to make sure that he can get through the fight without being knocked out. I could be totally wrong. Nick Ball could get the knockout still. But normally when you got a guy who's seriously experienced, they kind of know how to survive. They're maybe not that great at going forward or going, you know, being defensive with like head movement, but they'll be able to survive well from blocking. So I agree with you. I think it's going to be probably a unanimous points decision win for Nick Ball.
That's what I'm talking about, man. And anyway, speaking on Saturday the 15th, we've got another fight on Saturday the 15th as well. Very, very poor promotion. Absolute garbage. Fucking shite, mate. Go back to the amateur clubs and fight there, bro. You get me? Because how the fuck are you on world level stages and we don't even fucking know you're fighting? How the fuck does that make sense? And who am I referring to? I'm talking about Edgar Berlanga. He will be going up against a guy called Ortiz. Listen, I'll be real with you. I don't know who Ortiz is. Do you know who Ortiz is?
No, I'm not familiar with him, if I'm
not
being
really
honest.
familiar with him. I'm pretty sure he's Puerto Rican and Edgar Berlanga is American Puerto Rican. So this is a Puerto Rican clash. We're not really going to get into any details. We're not really going to go into any further in this fight. But we are going to say very poor promotion from his promoter, from Edgar Berlanga. Like, how can he be on world level stages and we don't even know about this fight until what, 4 or 5 days before? Maybe we're being a bit biased because we're over here in England, but still, we should hear about these. We should hear about these news. Do you know what I mean? We should hear about this.
Berlanga's quite a big name. He's been a big name for a while, and he should have been a bigger name because now he's fought Canelo.
That's what I'm saying, but it seems to be he's going on a decline after Canelo. You know what I mean? He should have been fighting Caleb Plant. Not fighting guys. Yeah, Jaime Munguia, you should be fighting Caleb Plant. You should be fighting these guys that nobody's ever heard of. Like, you are, I always believe once you've hit that world level stage, there's no going back. There's no U-turn. You have to only keep on going forward and keep on fighting the best. You know what I mean? But anyways, enough of that waffling. I'm going to stay tuned for that fight there. I can't really give you a prediction because I haven't really seen Ortiz fight. Don't really know much about him. Don't really know his record. So, if I was to give you a prediction, it's only based off Edgar Berlanga's performances.
Yeah.
But what we can say is he's got power. He's a knockout artist, and hopefully he gets the job done so we can see the betterment of boxing. Him go and face Caleb Plant and go and face Bruno Soros because Jaime Munguia is going to have a fight with Bruno Soros. So if Jaime Munguia pulls through and Edgar Berlanga pulls through, let's make that fight happen. What are we waiting for? Do you know what I mean? But I believe Edgar Berlanga is not ready to take another loss on his resume. Even when he got the opportunity to fight Canelo, I was like, what the fuck? How the fuck did you get that? Do you know what I mean? His resume don't even speak volumes. But anyways, enough of me waffling. Enough of us waffling. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you watched it to the end, you're watching Saved by the Bell podcast. me, my co-host, Dark Side of the Moon, aka Late Kariba, aka your girl snatcher. You know what I mean? Yeah, fucking right. But anyways, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and show us some love. Peace. Bosh.
Peace.